everybody, before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by Elderwood Academy. Elderwood Academy are the makers of many fine artisan gaming products. I am talking about awesome accessories that look like one thing and can be used as another at your table. We're talking about scrolls that turn into dice trays. We're talking about spell books that can hold your dice, your minis, your cards, your pencils, etc., etc. I'm talking about towers that appear to be codices, but actually they're dice towers. Really, really cool stuff. Plus, lots of fun extras, dice, catapults that you can use to launch your dice at your friends, which are really fun. I've tried them out. So to find out more, go to elderwoodacademy.com/don't-split. That's elderwoodacademy.com/don't-split for more. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. Today on the show, it is episode 199. I have just 2 left as host people. This is one of them. And guess what? I have a real treat for you because I am talking with my good friend and co-founder of DSPN, Rudy Basso. We're going to do a look back, a look forward, a look present, and have a lot of fun. Rudy is one of the best. So this was a really fun conversation and is actually, I recorded interviews a little out of order. So it's actually the last interview I ever recorded for Tabletop Babble, and it got really fun, and I got a little emotional. So anyway, here is my conversation with the one and only Rudy Basso. Okay, everybody, now I am here with one of my favorite people in the world.
Like Shay?
Rudy.
Oh.
Also a favorite, but he's no Rudy Basso. That's right. I know you're listening to this, Mike. We love you. But are you Rudy? I don't know.
I mean, in the most literal sense, no, he is not. So
That's true. In the most literal sense, you are no Rudy. And so, Rudy,
hey,
for people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Hi, my name is Rudy Basso. I'm the co-owner of Don't Split the Podcast Network, the very network that this podcast, if you're listening before 2021, is on.
Yeah, it's true. We're going to have a little bit of a weird episode today. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. Rudy and I co-own Don't Split the Podcast Network together, which is ending at the end of this year, 2020. And so we're going to be doing a little reminiscing, little talking about the future, little of this, little of that today. So, Rudy, take me back to how did all this
2006.
Yes, 2006. That's when
I'm a freshman in college. My first day of college, I say to my RA, "Man, I heard there's an improv troupe on campus. It sounds really fun." And he goes, "There is. And the RA downstairs, my friend James, is actually in it. Let's go say hi." So we run downstairs, knock on your door. You're not there. Go back upstairs. Fast forward to sometime later, James is running like an RA event. You had to do those, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I had to do different RA events. I think about drunk driving. Was that the one?
Yeah, so that was one that was like, come wear these drunk goggles. And play video games. And like, it's crazy. Mario Kart with the drunk goggles. And this is just a game. Imagine if it was a real car.
That's right.
Whoa.
And Rudy, can I ask, how many times have you driven intoxicated since?
0. So, well
Zero.
done.
Boom.
It had an effect on me. But at that point,
life saved.
We had talked briefly, I guess, during like theater club meetings. And I was playing a game and you were talking and I was standing there and you said something like, "Yeah, that's what all the big dogs know, right, Rudy?" And I went, because I was so nervous to talk to the coolest guy on campus, James Introcaso. I very distinctly remember this. James called me a big dog and me for like getting tongue-tied and unable to answer him because he talked to me.
I know that I was nowhere near the closest guy on campus, and I can prove it because the coolest guy on campus does not call people big dog.
Disagree.
Or nor does the coolest guy on campus have workshops about the dangers of drunk driving that involve wearing funny glasses and playing Mario Kart. I think this is all just a ploy to get people to know that I am older than you.
You're like not that much older than me. No, but then I'm just reminiscing about my James adventures. Then when I was a junior and you had graduated for 6 or 7 years.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I should have graduated by the time you came into college, but I switched majors 7 times. So
you were running, maybe I was a sophomore. You were running a Mutants and Masterminds game. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Fondly, I remember that.
I've mentioned this story before. I don't know if I've talked with you about it, but it was with a couple of my other friends, and I had heard about it through them. And one of them mentioned that they didn't have a healer, and they were going to have a skateboard with a bucket of Band-Aids follow them around. And at the end of one theater class that we were in, World Drama, Dr. Conkle, shout out Dr. Conkle, I awkwardly went up to you and said, hey, man, how about instead of a skateboard filled with Band-Aids, you have me instead. I can play. I'll be the healer. You were like, oh, yeah, sure. And that first session was so fun. That was my first tabletop RPG experience, and I laughed so much and had so much fun with our friends Vegas and other people, John Fisher, who was in Half Spellbook. And from there, when you started D&D, I just grabbed onto you. I clamped onto you, and I wouldn't let go. And here we are today. I'm still trying to grab those coattails of yours as you run up the mountain of success.
Disagree. I am on we're coattailing each other. We are in a comical oversized coat.
I am vigorously shaking my head to the listening audience
connected
right now.
by tails. It's like 2 coats with tails. It's like an infinity sign kind of connecting each other. And anyway, if you've ever seen the Netflix series Dark, that series is the coat that we are both wearing.
You've been on a dark kick. That is not the first time you've brought up Dark in the past few times.
It is not. It's not a great series. I'm not going to lie. First season really hooks you. Then you're kind of like, oh, gee.
It's German? Is that right?
It is German. Okay. And it's, hey, listen, if you like it, don't at me. You do you. But yeah, for me, I was like, this is great. This is, oh no one knows where this is going. This is
lost conundrum.
It is indeed the lost conundrum. But the point is, because then you and I, we played a lot of RPGs together. We did a lot of RPG podcasting together on the Tome Show. And then we started our own network almost 4 years ago now. And it's coming to a close, but not because of bad stuff.
No,
as so many things often come to a close, because you and I are moving on and doing other things. I have to say, this has been great. So the first DSPN show is, of course, Have Spellbook Will Travel.
Yes,
and so Rudy, that's your brainchild.
Unfinished.
Well,
because of Rudy, 100%.
It's coming. The Have Spellbook movie is coming. I think we can announce that now. In theaters, 2023. Have Spellbook movie. With Jessica Alba and Idris Elba. And other stars. The Rock.
Yes,
he's going to be in it.
Once the D&D movie comes out, I remember a podcast over 4 years ago where we talked about how excited we were about the Dungeons and Dragons podcast or movie.
By the way,
which will be coming out soon.
This is a side tangent, but this podcast is going to be filled with tangents. Everybody, the D&D movie, the people who wrote and directed it. It's a writing directing pair, and John Francis Daly is one of the writers.
I like them.
So
Goon is a movie. Night Game. What is it called? There was a game with or a movie with Jason Bateman where they played like board games.
Game
they
night,
directed
right? I think that's
Game
called.
Night.
Yeah.
Night game.
And Spider-Man: Homecoming is another one that they wrote together.
Those guys are great writers and actors.
Yeah, so they wrote and they are directing the D&D movie. So it's one of their first sort of directing things.
Nice.
And they're also credited as like world builders in the new D&D book, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Oh,
very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. I like them better than the original director they had grabbed, which is the guy who directed Goosebumps.
Right.
And
Gulliver's Travels, right? He had also done that with Jack
He worked
Black.
with Jack Black a lot, yeah. Mm-hmm. The Monsters vs. Aliens, the kids movie, I think he directed that too. So, okay.
Yeah, it's also a different writer because originally it was like the guy who wrote the script for the latest Little Red Riding Hood horror movie.
And he had done some other kind of big budget bad goofy movies. One it had like Greek gods in it or something, I don't know, but hey, that's Hollywood, baby. Directors change, writers change,
that's right. Podcasts change. So talk to me about Have Spellbook Will Travel. Where'd the idea come from?
That was an attempt at making an audio drama with all of our friends based off of our Dungeons and Dragons experiences, written by James Introcaso and Rudy Basso. Mostly James Introcaso.
Mostly Rudy Basso, in my memory. And definitely edited, produced, and directed by Rudy Basso. Also starring Rudy Basso.
One of those things where, starring James Introcaso, you look back on it and you are sick to your stomach at how little you knew. And it's one of those things where it's like, don't make this your first project when you're learning how to do audio editing.
Yeah, but because of that, I would say you learned a ton of stuff.
I did. Yeah, I learned a ton of stuff, including workflow for how to make an audio drama.
Yeah.
Implementing sound, making things louder or lower. Yeah, I learned a lot from that, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah. And then we started the network, and now, obviously we've got shows like Venture Maidens, Dames and Dragons, Behold Her, this show, Redemption, and so many others that are on here. The DM's Deep Dive with Mike Shea.
Oh, yeah. That's been on hiatus for a bit. It's now Lazy DM Prep with Mike Shea.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you've been there sort of for all the iterations of that, shepherding that show along. And we've certainly, you've been helping out all of our shows behind the scenes. So what would you say, what is some of the most fun you've had in your DSPN stuff? What have you really enjoyed doing here?
I mean, making new friends within the community, both on our shows and the guests that have been on our shows and the other people in the podcast community in the RPG world. A lot of fun, really nice, hardworking individuals. So it's been great to be able to meet them and play games with them at conventions and hang out and have drinks and dinner and stuff like that. Conventions, hopefully a thing that we have once again in the world.
That's true. Yeah. And also in this time, you have taken up a ton of different games, right? You've run a bunch of different systems and stuff like that. You are the first person who introduced me to the much acclaimed Alien RPG that came out last year.
Oh, yeah. I love me an Alien. Yeah, that's a really good game. I love Gumshoe, which is a detective game. That isn't really, there's usually guns in its various iterations or swords or whatever, but it's more about solving mysteries, which is always the stuff that I find the most fun in role-playing games. So, yeah, I've picked up a lot. I was just on a new, I don't need to plug this.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
All right. There's this website called startplaying.games where you can hire GMs to run games for you. And I signed up for it today, and you are like, list all the games systems and I was just like, oh yeah, I know this, I know this. So yeah, being a part of this community has definitely expanded my horizons on what there is in the RPG world, and it's limitless. You can play whatever you want in so many different really cool systems that have wonderful mechanics that meet themes, or just like have very little mechanics, and it's a lot about talking, and that's really great fun too. And yeah, it's been great. When we started the first episode of the Round Table,
oh right,
I knew Dungeons and Dragons, and one time I played Mutants and Masterminds.
Right.
And I didn't really understand it, and I still don't really understand it.
So Rudy has run a lot of different games that I have gotten to play with him. And we have played a lot of new games together at conventions and stuff since we've started podcasting together.
I'm pals.
And it really has grown from there in a great way. So obviously, Rudy, you and I, speaking of shows that are on DSPN, The Demon Plague, no strangers to D&D. That's one of 1 through 20 5th edition campaigns that we've played together.
Yes.
But there's a lot out there to play. And I think the fact that you are offering your services to people is great, because it means that they can learn the game through you.
Yeah, that's something that so in my home games, the thing that I find most fun these days is inviting people who have never played role-playing games and being like, it used to be I would come to my house, I introduced them to a group of my friends at Dungeons and Dragons through one of the wonderful adventures from Fantastic Adventures by Sly Flourish by Mike Shea, previously mentioned Mike Shea.
Mm-hmm.
And I had such a fun time, and they met the lord of the town, and I brought out all these fancy foods and we explaining the rules and stuff. That's something I really, really enjoy. So yeah, that's the most fun to me, is introducing people to the worlds of these games and making sure they understand it and just having a fun time seeing them play for the first time. That's something I get a lot of enjoyment from.
Hey, everybody, wanted to take a quick break to let you know that I have a tabletop role-playing game that I led the design of. It is called Burn Bright, and it was built from the ground up for Roll20. It's a science fantasy role-playing game that takes place at the end of existence and dares the player characters who play aliens with superpowers to hope. That's right, stare the end of existence in the face and dare to hope. Do it. Go check out Burn Bright right now. That's Burn Bright. Bright is spelled Bryte, and it's burnbright.com. Also, Roll20Con is coming up, and there's lots of Burn Bright games that you can get in on, including ones that I am GMing. Plus, we're giving away a free starter adventure called Trapped at the Edge during Roll20Con, so you should definitely go check that out. So head on over, okay? Do me a big, big favor. Head on over to burnbright.com. Again, Bright is spelled Bryte. It would mean so much to me. Let's get back to the babble. There's a lot going on in the community. So with DSPN sort of coming to an end, but with you and I still very much active members here in this community, what's next? What's next for Rudy Basso?
So right now, for the next month and a half, 2 months, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can see me running a game called Torg Eternity by Ulysses Spila on the WebDM Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/WebDM. Just Torg Eternity was a game I did not know anything about when I applied to play on it, and it is bonkers. It is so fun. It is like 7 games in one, to be honest.
Really?
You're on Earth. You're on an alternate version of Earth. This Earth already has like Bigfoots and magic and stuff. And then these evil lords of destruction from 7 different realities try and invade our Earth and begin taking it over. And all the areas that they have begun invading change to their realities. So, for example, in America, on the eastern western coasts, it's kind of like prehistoric tribal situation. There are dinosaurs running around. There's like lizard people with spears. It's really old school. In England, it is like high fantasy Dungeons and Dragons where monsters are coming out of the London underground. In Russia, there's like this demon technology. It's kind of like Doom-esque. It's very horror-y. In France, there's a cyber pope. And France is now under the reign of the cyber papacy. So it's like this weird Catholic monstrous, it's with Catholicism with lasers is how I like to describe cyber pope. It's all over the place, and it's just, I'm running a game that's like over the top 80s action, just silly fun. We're not getting into heavy themes or anything like that. Every PC has a tagline that they drop after an awesome moment. Everyone's dressing up in their character. Like, it's just fun. It's just fun and silly. If you're like, I just want to turn my brain off and enjoy some goofiness, then please tune in every Thursday, 6 p.m.
And you're giving like I don't know if this is giving away too much, but I hear we might get a little bit of a tour of the world of Torg Eternity on your show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll be, like I said, 7 realities. We're going to try and see all 7 of them.
That's awesome. So I have not read any Torg Eternity, but you've definitely piqued my interest. I've heard that it is a rather crunchy game to like wrap your mind around.
So it is very narrative. It is very narrative. And we're lucky that we have some really great tools through Roll20 that kind of do away with a lot of that crunch. So there isn't a lot of us like, oh, geez, what does this mean? Oh, geez, what does this mean? And we have a great editor, Grant Ellis, who's kind of cutting out all that kind of busy stuff. So it's just the action, just the story, just the fun stuff. And, usually Spiel has been very kind. They're kind of like, we want you to show off the system, but at the same time, make sure it's a fun and enjoyable story. So I'm kind of, if things seem to be getting too bogged down in the crunchy bits, then we'll just kind of momentarily sweep those aside, come back to them when it's necessary. But the main thing is telling a really, really fun story with everybody else. That's My awesome. Players, just going to shut them all out. Amber at Rocket Orca, Pruitt from WebDM, Shauna Nakasone, and Little Red Dot, who you might know from Twitch, everywhere on Twitch. She's a million things. So they're all great. Like I said, everybody's dressed up in their characters. It's really fun. We're having a really fun time. So, bam, that's what I'm doing.
Nice. That's awesome. You have played on a lot of different actual plays. Demon Plague, you ran Alien over on WebDM for them.
Yeah, I was actually just a few weeks ago on Dames and Dragons. I had a 2-part guest appearance on Dames and Dragons.
That's right. And it was not your first time on Dames and Dragons.
No. I had been on it 2 years ago, I think, as well as this very goofy, dumb idiot, which is my forte.
So do you... I think I know the answer to this for you at a non-streamed game. So let's start there, though. Do you prefer playing or running a game when it's just home, when it's just not in front of a camera?
I think at this point I prefer running a game. I don't know. I do love playing games, but I guess it depends on the system, really. I think that's the main thing that I'm attracted to, is trying new games.
Oh, yeah.
And, a lot of time if you want to play a new game, you have to be the one GMing it. So in that case, like, I will definitely jump in. But if someone else is like, hey, I'm running whatever, Mothership or something like that, then I'll be like, ooh, I don't know Mothership. I would like to play Mothership. Let me jump in. Like, I have recently kickstarted a bunch of stuff with the intention of running them. Like Alice is Missing is something I recently backed. Lightning War, which is like a World War II version of Dungeons and Dragons. I backed that with the goal of running it.
These all sound dope. I want to play.
I know there's so many games, but it's like a lot to try. And there's a game called Rain by Greg Stolze, which is kind of like the D&D. I'm forgetting the setting where you're leaders of a nation. In addition,
Birthright.
Oh man, I can't believe. Yep, Birthright. Yeah, it's got better mechanics from what I understand, though. Like, it's called Reign, REIGN, because you're the leaders of a nation. So I'm really curious about that. I just backed Twilight, whatever number, 2000, whatever the new one's called, from
Stephanie Miles. I see.
No, from Free League Games, where it's like World War III, like modern,
yes,
like guns and stuff. Yeah, that's a big Kickstarter. So I guess at this point I'm really more interested in GMA.
Do you like historical stuff? Because that is a thing that I think I've noticed that you often like at a convention. You'll be like, it's like World War One. You're German soldiers, but there's there's zombies.
I think I want to like historical stuff, but it doesn't always work. I think the best, so I'll say this, I think the best con game I ever played was set. It was a Cthulhu game that you and I played.
Yes. Also probably the best con game I think I've ever played. Yeah.
Really wonderful. And that was set in it was like 1917 on an airship because the U.S. Navy had at the beginning of the 20th century this airship wing of them that was trying to use them as like viable military. It was crazy. And our GM had an incredible story that he made up, and it was so fun. That was Call of Cthulhu. So I do kind of like that stuff. We also, it's hard to make a good system based on some of that stuff. Like I'll play Delta Green is sort of historical. It's set against the backdrop of Vietnam, but you're not like in fighting in the Vietnam War. You're kind of again, it's very similar to like Apocalypse Now, where it's about a story set against the backdrop of Vietnam. In this case, it's like hunting down Cthulhu, Lovecraftian monsters, and that's more interesting to me than like you're a squad in World War II, survive Normandy. Like that's. I don't know that works so great in an RPG.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's although another sort of DSPN project, right, that you did with Total Party Thrill, DSPN show we haven't shouted out yet. Your Band of Blades actual play, which is not certainly historical because you're fighting undead, but that's a very sort of military.
Yeah, it's real like grim dark fantasy military. It's basically if you've ever played The Black Company?
Right, yeah, I think that's what it's the Black Company novels, yeah.
Yeah, it takes inspiration from a lot of things like The Black Company. XCOM is another one that I think because you're not playing you're playing like two games at once essentially. You're playing kind of a resource management game as the leaders of this mercenary company. Like I was the commander. I made the big kind of meta decisions on where we retreated next. The whole conceit of the game is that you have lost the big battle of the big war. So now you are retreating to the eastern coast of the country, and you have to kind of go through these cities that have been ravaged by the war. You kind of have to be like, yeah, sorry. Good luck, because we're mercenaries. Like I don't have particular nationalistic courage or whatever. My priority is keeping my people alive. Sorry.
Wow.
But you can be good and be better. But as the commander, so I was making those meta decisions of where we go next in our retreat. We had a supply officer who kind of had to juggle. Oh, geez, we need food, but at the same time we need horses, but at the same time we need weapons. There was another person who was just like in charge of the squads, the companies itself, like keeping the personnel of the squads. And then we had like a spy master who would gather intelligence. And then the other half of the game is you are playing the soldiers themselves, going out on missions to get resupplies, to find like prisoners or to recruit new members to the mercenary company. Really, really, really unique game. Really, really, really fun. Great narrative possibilities. I loved the story we told. It was a great RPG campaign experience. I really, really liked that game a lot, and I liked the game we played. That was with, Total Party Thrill, Shane and Ishan, Sally T, our friend, and once again, Amber Seeger, Rocket Orca.
Yes. Very cool. And a great crew of people, and a whole lot of fun. Yeah, that game was really cool, and not something that I think I would pick up normally because I'm not like a big military guy. But when I saw the actual play, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I love the way this works. So I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff because I feel like you always introduce me to cool things because you have a good eye on what's coming out and what's new, but also like, hey, there was this game that was made a while back and I just heard about it and I checked it out and it's cool. It's been really, really great. Like as the person who got to play your first game with you, right? Mutants and Masterminds, to now have you come to me and be like, have you played this game? Have you heard about this? And I'm like, no, I haven't. Like it's awesome. So now you are the coolest guy on campus.
No, I'm
the big dog.
No, wait. I thought the big dog was the cool. All right, whatever. One of us is a big dog, and that's.
I think
exciting.
we're both one big dog, so we're like a two-headed Cerberus. Who would be our third head if we were a Cerberus?
Vegas Lancaster.
Vegas Lancaster would probably be the third head. Yes, that's a good point. And so, how are you feeling? Right, with DSPN coming to a close, and
it's. Moving on, closing chapter of the book or whatever. It was great. We learned a lot. I think we made some great content. I hope people had fun and enjoyed it. I hope our shows that we brought on board were happy with how everything turned out. I hope we provided them some opportunities that they might not have gotten otherwise, mainly with compensation. That has been, I think, our number one drive is to get sponsorship money and to try and get everybody paid a little bit, which I think we achieved.
Definitely
have to get too much into that.
Totally. And I think that felt good, right? Being able to help these other shows and support, which will all still exist,
yes,
right?
Absolutely,
so just because DSPN is going away doesn't mean the shows will. It's definitely been a fun time, kind of, as we look back and reflect on what was. I don't know how much we should say, Rudy, but I'm getting ready to dig into a thing that you and I have been working on that is not podcast related.
Yeah. Let's talk about that thing. Sure.
Yeah.
So you and I love me some theater. You and I love me some theater. What a sentence that was. Obviously, we
do love me some theater.
We met through theater. We both were in a kind of community theater group called Shakespeare 70, where every year they did a Shakespeare play. They did Romeo and Juliet. You were Romeo. I was your boon companion, Benvolio. Disappears after the first or second act. Doesn't come back ever again. What happened to Benvolio? Some I asked myself a lot. Some I asked the director. He's like, I don't know. You just leave. But that's just one example. We did a bunch of other plays together too. So we have a connection to Shakespeare. In fact, the first Shakespeare play I ever saw was you were in a Midsummer Night's Dream, and that had a huge effect on me as an individual, and just like kind of told me, okay, you need this kind of stuff in your life in the future.
True. And then years later, I saw you in a Shakespeare production that I was not in, of Hamlet.
Oh, yeah.
So playing King Claudius, which is, just so everybody knows, the 5th longest role in Shakespeare's canon.
It was a heavily cut down version of Hamlet, to be fair. So I don't know that everything that Claudius said got kept in there, but I
would say most of what Claudius said was in there, though.
Probably most of it.
He's the big dog, I would say.
He's one of the big dogs in that. There's a lot of big dogs in that play.
There are a lot of big dogs in that play.
But yeah, so I know Hamlet very well. You know Hamlet. So we're like, man, wouldn't it be fun if there was Hamlet with elves? That was my pitch. And you were like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, wait a second. What if there was Hamlet with elves? So we dug deep a little bit more into what that would look like. Got rid of the elf part. No elves in this one. But you know me, I love me some weird mechanics. Like, okay, cool. There's like 9-ish major characters in the play. What if we made them all PCs? Okay, that's too many people for one GM. What if we added a second GM? Okay, cool. Well, one of the big themes of Hamlet is kind of like mystery and intrigue and betrayal. What if we kind of gave everybody different motivations and backgrounds, some that directly contradicted other characters' backgrounds? Like I said, I've been playing a lot of Alien, where there's a lot of betrayal and backstabbing. So, well, what if we did something like that? Okay, cool. Well, what if we created mechanics where people can go off into a separate room and kind of chat secretly with each other? Ooh, that sounds fun. So we're making a weird thing.
We are.
Yeah. it kind of grew out of an idea to make an RPG module, but it's kind of bigger than that. I think one of our playtesters recently described it as a role-playing experience. Oh, damn. I forgot what she said exactly, but it's not just your classic, let's go into the dungeon and kill stuff. And also, oh, by the way, I'm Hamlet. It's very talky focused. It's very role-play heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very and it's one of those things that is, because it's 9 players, right? You are playing, you're not really fighting monsters together. You are plotting against each other and working with each other to plot against each other, and plans upon plans and plots upon plots and that sort of thing. So it's very Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had 3 playtests, and after each of the playtests, someone has said to both of us that it is one of, if not the best role-playing game experiences they've had. So so really, we can only go down from here.
Yep. They've all at least said, I've never played anything like that before.
Correct.
Which is also a big achievement in my eyes, especially considering some of the playtesters we've had who've been around for a long time. So I'm really, really excited about it. Yeah. And it will be coming to Kickstarter sometime in 2021, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Right now, we're both busy and working on a lot of different things. So as I am beginning to put down fantastic layers, I am able to take this project back up again a little bit more. So
yeah, Hamlet coming soon. Hamlet with elves coming soon.
Hamlet with elves coming soon.
To a Kickstarter near you.
Yeah, so that's some exciting news and things that you can see from us. Rudy, if people want to know more about you, find out more about you, where should they go? What should they do?
Please go to twitter.com/Rudy Basso, RUDYBASSO.
All right. Well, go there, follow Rudy. He's a great follow. You're going to learn a lot of things, possibly see some cute animal pics occasionally.
Sure. I have a dog. I like her. I take her picture.
She's great. Her name is Jewel. And have some fun talk about RPGs with Rudy Basso. Rudy, thank you, not just for joining me on Tabletop Apple, but for starting a podcast network with me and being a really good friend and going to conventions with me. Yeah. And just being the best dude. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me them coattails. I ride the coattails. I ride them.
No,
You're
we've
the
already
hero.
established we have a coattail conglomeration that we both wear.
I'm still fuzzy on how this whole situation with the coattails works from your point of view.
Yeah, it's like a human centipede, but with coattails.
Ooh, now I don't like it. No. Do not like it.
Anyway, that's the end of the show. That was a great conversation with my friend Rudy. You know, people, Tabletop Babble is heading over to the Geekspective podcast network, where Amber is going to take over as a host and showrunner, and Kenny and John are going to join her with the hosting duties. We will talk with them next episode, which will be my final as the host. But guess what? They are going to have this show directly linked into their podcast, like the feed. You don't need to do anything. Tabletop Babble is still going to exist and be out there for you. So I would love for them to get off to an amazing start. As a parting gift to me, if you could head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for this show, it would mean the world to me and to the new hosts. It helps so many other people find the show. Thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate it. All right, people, you can find me on Twitter at James Introcaso, and you can keep up with me over at worldbuilderblog.com, where you can also sign up for my mailing list. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by BattleBards. This episode was edited by Nate Pausenga. And hey, I just want you to know, I really love you all.
Hey there, listeners. It's Shane.
And Ishan, your hosts from the Total Party Thrill podcast, the newest addition to the Don't Split the Podcast network.
We talk topics that help you, dear listener, create and play better RPG games.
We have a back catalog of more than 150 weekly episodes.
And we got nominated for an Emmy for episode 11, Social Contracts.
In episode 154, we talked about crossing the moral event horizon. How evil is too evil?
We also recap our home games, like the 40k Rogue Trader campaign, Dynasty Unwarranted.
But that's mainly just you trying to kill us all. In your defense, our characters are greedy idiots.
Don't forget the 3 years we spent in Eberron playing Morning Glory, your 5th edition D&D campaign.
We also review new RPGs and books, and every episode we build a 5th edition D&D character in the Character Creation Forge.
You might check out the Pint-Sized Punisher from episode 119, a halfling with a bad attitude, and 14 levels of Barbarian.
So to recap, Total Party Thrill, RPG advice, campaign recaps, and D&D characters built by your dashing hosts every single week.
What more could you possibly want?
To get back to the actual show?
Oh yeah, let me just hit this button, and here you go.